Hey guys, welcome back to For StarCraft 2 Strategy. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Zerg strategy. Now the Zerg player in this particular strategy replay is Abver, and our Protoss opponent is Duckload also known as White Raw. I'm going to go ahead and go straight into Abver Vision here. Again, this is a Zerg strategy, and in particular what we're going to be taking a look at is going for Speedling Roach versus a Protoss opponent who is choosing to fast expand. So we're going to be taking a look at what you need to look for, how you're going to know that a fast expansion is coming, and then how to properly respond and why we're doing what we're doing. So yeah, basically the idea behind what we're doing is we're going to be taking advantage of the fact that our opponent has dumped resources into an expansion and lacks an army thusly. And I've said this in many prior videos about responding to fast expansions, how if you get the timing down properly and if you move out at the correct time, you can really take advantage of their lack of army, and you should be able to overcome them as long as you do it properly, as long as you make sure, again, that your timing is correct and you micro your units properly. Now, as you can see, we are in fact moving out with our drone here. We are going to be scouting our opponent's base, trying to figure out precisely what's going on, and we are actually going to be going for a 13 pool. So we're saving up at the moment. Once we get to those 200 minerals, that's when we're going to be dropping our spawning pool. Now, as you can see, we're getting our scouting information here. I'm just going to go over quickly what this entails, what we're looking at, and basically how we should respond to it. Now, seeing this particular placement here, seeing a placement of this pylon and gateway outside of his main base and away from his main choke, covering his natural expansion, this tells us that we are very likely to see a fast expansion, because there really is no other reason to create a wall off or a choke in front of your natural other than to defend it. He would be much better off choking off up here if he planned on one base play. So at this point we can kind of expect that we're going to be seeing a fast expansion, and we can respond accordingly. Now, our extractor was just finished, so we went ahead and saturated that. We're going to be starting to save our Vespian gas, and it's at this point that we're going to decide that, okay, we're going to be going for Speedlings, and we're also going to be going for Roaches to stop any early aggression, one, and to deal with or take out this fast expansion that our Protoss opponent is doing. Now, we do see these two gateways here, so the main concern initially is dealing with any early zealots. I mean, as you can see, there's already a zealot out, and we did just see him pushing forward, so he is likely to be coming into our base. So we do know that an early zealot is likely to be coming in, seeing that two gateway early on in the game. So we're responding to this by getting the spine crawler. We are also, once we have this queen building, that's going to help with the defense, and we also should be getting up a few Zerglings as well to help deal with that. As you can see, dropping that Roach Warren Roaches being so very strong early game versus Zealots, and they're also going to be doing a very good job of just being kind of meat shields and helping any push that we do with our Zerglings. So this first queen is up right now. We are kind of waiting right now. We're in limbo just in case we do see any early Zealot pressure. Again, we did see that Zealot move a little bit forward. Now, our Protoss opponent is aware at this point that we are going for Roaches. He did just have a probe in our mineral line. If you just saw it exploded right there not too long ago. And so at that point, he could clearly be within vision of this Roach Warren. So he knows that we're going for Roaches. Now, even in knowing that, as long as this fast expansion is still going up like we assume it is, we're going to be in a great position here. Now, we do see those zealots moving into our base, so luckily we had created the spine crawler. This is going to help fend it off just a little bit, and we do also have these Zerglings and Roaches coming. Speed upgrade being upgraded as well. The Speedling's much more effective than regular Zerglings because they can get that surround much quicker, and that's really the main reason for doing it. Also, it allows you that speed provides the threat of you pushing into your opponent's base at a much quicker rate, and that kind of forces them into a somewhat defensive position. Now, that Roach Warren is up. We did, of course, create Roaches to fend off that attack, but also to push out with an attack ourselves. They did just lose 300 resources worth of units in losing those 3 zealots, so he is slightly behind at this point, and we're going to push out. We're going to take advantage of that. We're going to be moving out with our Roaches and our Zerglings, and we're going to try to push forward and do as much damage as possible. Now, we do know right now at this point, by pulling forward our Overlord and getting the scouting information, that we are at an incredibly great advantage, even more so than we thought could be the case. Seeing this forge here and these photon cannons being placed, as well as this expansion, this is a huge amount of resources being pumped into structures as opposed to units. Also, getting this forge and this photon cannon, there's also an additional photon cannon here. We don't see that, but there is one. Getting this forge and this photon cannon is going to delay cybernetics core production. As you can see here, he is still building a cybernetics core. Again, seeing this early in the game, seeing these buildings as well as this expansion, we know that he is behind in resources and behind in army. That there's no other way. Unless he's has like infinite resources, he's going to be behind. That's just how it works. Now, we instead have been producing units, and because of this forge, he didn't get that cybernetics core quite up as fast, and he's not going to have as many stalkers as a result. So we're pushing forward against not many stalkers, in fact none at all. He's got some coming out, but at this point it's too late. We've got a huge army inside of his base. He's spent so many resources again on these buildings that he lacks any sort of an army. Stalkers just barely coming out. Had he had those stalkers out earlier, it would have helped greatly in defending this attack. They would have been able to sit behind these buildings and poke off units as they kind of pushed into this choke here, but he didn't, again, because so many resources were dumped into this expansion and this forge and these additional cannons. And that's the kind of thing that you want to look for when trying to push out with an early attack versus an opponent who's fast expanding. They've dumped these resources in it. If you in turn put all your resources into units and push out, you can be at a great advantage and you can win the game really early on, as we did see in this particular strategy replay. So we're going to go ahead and take another look at that build order. We started off with that 13 spawning pool, and then we followed that up by getting an extractor. We moved out into our opponent's base, and we did see that this frontal choke, this frontal wall off, was being built, and that told us that the probability of a fast expansion was high. Now at that point we decided, okay, well, I want to be aggressive, I want to push out, so I'm going to drop a Roach Warren. Getting roaches early is going to be very beneficial as opposed to just having speedlings. So we researched the speedling upgrade. We did indeed get speedlings as well, but we mainly focused on a roach production, and we pushed out after getting the scouting information, seeing that so many resources had been dumped into these buildings, and knowing that we're going to be at a huge advantage when it comes to army size. We pushed out, we were able to break through his front wall and do tons of damage. So there you go, guys. Again, this has been for StarCraft 2 strategy. If you guys like our videos and you like what you see here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. Again, this is one of those situations where if you're in a macro-intensive game, set yourself up for success. Get the buildings that you're going to need to respond to whatever your opponent ends up throwing at you, and just kind of concentrate on building enough to survive. If he had pushed out harder earlier in the game, we would have of course built more units, but since he hasn't,